Wonderful to have your company here today. I'm Maya Linnell. I'm a member of the Australian Romance Readers Association, and I'm very thrilled to have you here today with some special guests to show you how to make scones and also how to do, so we'll talk about some of our favourite books, we'll talk about cooking, what we like to bake. We've got some wonderful scone recipes to share with you, so please make yourself comfy. I hope you've got a cup of tea, and we'll talk about scones and baking and books. So to start off, this is my scone recipe that I've been making for about 15 years now, and it's really simple. So it's just 3 cups of self-raising flour. We've got 2 teaspoons of icing sugar and 2 teaspoons of corn flour. So if you're really pedantic, you could sift these, and my husband used to sift these 3 times when we were first dating. He doesn't sift them at all. In fact, he barely even makes these scones anymore. So I just get a whisk and I try and get the lumps out just like that. And then you pop in 300 mils of cream and use the full fat stuff because goodness knows scones are not a diet food. So we've got our 300 mils of cream in there. And then I add 1 egg. Now this one was freshly laid by our chickens out in the hen house today. And because they're new chickens, are only laying small eggs. So what I like to do to ensure that I've got the correct ratio of dry ingredients to wet ingredients is I put the egg in a measuring cup and then I fill it up to the ½ cup measurement with milk, because that way I know that I've got the right quantities of wet and dry. So quickly whisk those together. And then I use a butter knife to stir it with, which sounds really unusual. And I know the first few times that I made these scones, I thought, that just doesn't seem right, mixing stuff with a butter knife. But for this recipe, it works. And I've got my little helper, Amelia, here. And she's a budding chef as well. She loves cooking. So I mix it together with a knife just until it's good enough to come together that I can put it out on the bench. And this recipe actually came from my mother-in-law, Sue, and she is a fantastic cook. She makes beautiful baked goods and casseroles and stuff, and she's off a farm, so she's used to baking for shearers. So she knows how to make good food in good quantities. So we just pop that out onto the bench with a bit of flour. Thank you, Mel. We'll get the cup of tea out of the way. And then we just knead it together until it comes together. Now, one of the things that I love about baking is that it's one of those things that as soon as you start doing it, you're kind of all involved. So it's almost like a relaxing thing where you have to be mindful. You have to think about what you're putting in, and on a really bad day, if you can put a cup of flour, a cup of sugar, a cup of milk, a few eggs together, then at least you'll get something for your effort. So Marianne Keyes, who's one of my favourite authors, she talks about this whole baking theory and baking therapy. And I mentioned that in my first book, Wildflower Ridge, which I was really thrilled to have shortlisted for the favourite small town romance in last year's Australian Romance Readers Awards. So thank you for everyone who voted for that. All right, so the dough's come together really nicely, and it starts to feel almost silky between your fingers. And then we just do it on the bench top because we have these really hardy red gum benches, and this wood was milled about 16 years ago, so it's really hard wood, and it seems to handle all the scraping and the cutting that we put up with. So I've got my oven heated to 200 degrees fan forced as well. And I just like to whack a bit of flour on my rolling pin. And just put a little bit more underneath so it doesn't stick. And this recipe makes about 12 sometimes 13 scones. And it's always a favourite at our house on a Sunday morning. And because it's so quick and easy as well, I feel like it's a good one for when guests pop over. So I usually roll it up to about that thick. You know, it's about the height of my fingers. And my super tip for my scones is that you use a sharp cutter. Like, I know a lot of people use just a water glass or a blunt cutter. For me, I really like to have a sharp cutter. And we have a crinkly one and a round one, but we'll just use the round one today. And also make sure that you're getting your scone cutter so that it actually cuts through all the sides. So don't kind of get stingy and try and get the max value out of your dough. You want to make sure you're cutting cleanly through all the sides as well. So they're pretty easy. We'll just dust a little bit of flour first on there. So Amelia's going to work with me as my little companion, putting the scones on. Come here. Yep, you can. And so you want to put them relatively close together, but I don't put them touching on my baking tray. I just have them so, you know, there's room for them to grow, but they're not too likely to stick together. And then one of the cool things about doing this panel, so we've got our guests today are Kaneana May, we've got Leonie Kelsall, we have Cathryn Hein, and we have Carla Caruso. And one of the really neat things is that we all have different recipes and we all like to eat them differently too. So we'll talk to you guys a little bit later, and people who have submitted questions, you'll be called on later to ask you questions, and you'll need to unmute yourself. But we'll have a bit of a chat, and once these are in the oven in a minute, I'll be introducing our special guests. So how many have we got? We've got 8 so far. And one of the most sought after things in our kitchen on a Sunday morning, while the scones are cooking, everyone likes to have a bit of scone dough. So I know it's got raw egg in it, but it's a hot favourite around here. Everyone fights over the biggest piece of leftover scone dough. Okay, okay, I think we can get one more of that. How many have we got now, Mil? 10. Ooh, I've gone generous this time. All right, I'll roll that one a little bit thinner. That'd be fun. Okay, well, that looks pretty good. So we'll pop them into the oven in a second, and that's too small to make an actual scone over it, so everyone gets to eat that afterwards. Okay, so let's pop them into our oven. There we go. How simple was that? So let's now have our guest, Kaneana, you're able to unmute everyone. And I'd love you to say who you are, what your book's about, and tell us a little bit about your favourite scone recipe, guys.
Hello, I'm Kaneana, and this is my debut book called The One. It came out last June, only a few weeks after Maya's debut, and we were lucky enough to become friends in this crazy writing journey, and it's been definitely great to have Maya along the side and to be able to talk about all things. A quick pitch about my book was: on a dating TV show, the on-screen drama is only a fraction of the story. And The One centres around a reality TV dating show. It intertwines the lives of 3 women, a producer, a contestant and a viewer in their pursuit to not only find themselves, but their happily ever afters along the way. Do you want me to talk about my scones now, Maya, or will we pass on to Leonie? Okay, so the scones that I've made today are pumpkin scones. This is a family recipe that I grew up with my mum making throughout. She used to make them for lunches all the time. We still do. It was my mum and my daughter's birthday last month, and we all got together and we made batches of scones. I put a little Instagram story up this morning because I got up and made them for breakfast for the kids. Mostly my favourite to have on them is a savoury scone with cheese, cucumber and tomato and fresh spinach leaves if we have them. So we kind of all have that to begin with. Often if I am trying to make them a bit healthy, so I do try and make my scones healthy, I'll grate zucchini and put it in the mix as well. But yes, we can have them for breakfast, for lunch. I send them to lunches for school. And if I'm having like an easy Sunday night dinner, we have scones as well. So Leonie, if you want to jump in now.
I will. I hope you can hear me. I think I'm on. Yeah, I am on. My scones aren't done yet. I'll admit that straight up. They're in the oven behind me. I don't know if you can see the lights on. It's half an hour earlier here because I'm in South Australia. So that's going to be my excuse for literally everything this morning. And if it goes wrong, that's why. Here's my book. It's my debut in rural romance, though I do have more than a dozen books under a pen name in different genres. This comes out with Allen and Unwin next month, so it's getting very close, very exciting. I'll read the blurb off the back because it's quicker than going with my elevator pitch. Obviously, I'm into long elevator rides. So this is basically the story of an unexpected inheritance, a traumatic past, and a family whose secrets are kept by the town. After a fractured childhood spent in foster homes, city girl Ronnie has convinced herself that she has no need of anyone other than her not as tough as he looks rescued street cat Scritches. The actual Scritches is sitting right next to me just here. Let's pretend he's not in my kitchen. And her unborn baby. Despite facing a bleak future, Ronnie distrusts the news of request from an unknown aunt, Marion. But out of options, she and Scritches leave Sydney behind, bound for a huge property on the edge of the wheat belt in South Australia. However, this is no simple inheritance. With everything at stake, Ronnie must learn to believe in the truth of Marion's most important lesson: everyone deserves love. It's a captivating story of family, friendship, and forgiveness. So out next month. And I will pass on to whoever was next in the queue while my scones are busy doing their thing.
That's me, I think. I'm Cathryn Hein. I write rural romances. I think this is number 15 or 16. I'm not sure. It's Scarlet and the Model Man's my latest one. It's a friends to lovers romance about an artist who's lost her creativity, and the surfing dairy farmer, him, we're right, him, who helps her get it back. So my scones today, I was absolutely devastated to have lost my grandmother's scone recipe that she taught me. That I'd been making ever since, she very first taught me. We used to move house a lot because my partner was in the military, and I think the last house move, it just disappeared, and I was devastated. And I've been on the hunt for a scone recipe ever since. And Maya, it was really interesting to see yours that has an egg in it, because most scone recipes that I went hunting through, even through my old CWA cookbooks, all those sorts of things, they don't have egg in them. And my grandmother's had egg in it too. So I was really surprised to see yours having with an egg. But the one I've discovered now actually can be made with, I make it with buttermilk, and it doesn't have an egg in it, but they're really light and really fluffy and have a great flavour. So I'm kind of, until I find another one that's like Nanny's, then this one will do me for a while. So, Carla?
That's fantastic. That sounds really nice. And Carla, is Carla around?
You're not muted.
Hello.
All right. Oh, is she there?
Yes, yeah, lucky last. You can hear me okay. So, my name's Carla Caruso. I'm the author of The Right Place, if you can see that, out with Harlequin. It came out late 2018. It's my last big book. I've taken a little while longer on my latest, but we're nearly at the end of the first draft, which is actually set in a cafe, so it's another foodie one. This book is about, The Right Place is about a city girl who inherits her Italian grandma's market garden, and she plans to sort of clean it up and put it on the market, but then the place gets under her skin and she finds her nonna's recipe book. And she also has some run-ins with the handsome neighbour next door from her past. So, that's that one. So it's got recipes throughout the book, but not my Nonna's scone recipe. We always thought it was funny that my Italian nonna had a scone recipe that she would make because it's, you know, very British or Aussie to have scones. But what I love about my nonna and mum's recipes is that they really cut corners. So it's only got 3 ingredients, which is cream, milk and flour. And I have to say I'm probably the dud baker of the batch here today. So this is probably my first time making her scones. So they look a little bit pale and flat. So if you can help me out, what I did wrong, but they taste really good. So, yeah, so I think I need to make them a bit smaller, but they taste really good. So I'm not going to be buying the store-bought ones so much anymore. I'm going to be making them. So thank you. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic, Carla. Well, they look good. They look really tasty. And did you say that you had them with quince jam as well?
Yes, yes. Another writer friend, Liliana Rose, she made a quince jam for me, which I like because it's spicy and sweet. I like things that are a bit interesting like that. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Well, I'm a huge fan of making quince paste and quince jam as well. Well, because mine doesn't set into that hard consistency that you can cut it with a knife. Mine is always a jam consistency. So I call it quince paste, but really it's a bit like quince jam. And we have it on scones all the time as well, which is nice with a bit of cream.
Yes, yeah. Even just butter. I just like butter as well.
Yes. Well, because, well, and it's got to be real butter, doesn't it? Is that what you find as well?
Yes, yes. Yep.
Real butter, yep. Hands up for real butter. And I'd better also do a bit of a pitch. I forgot to mention the blurb of my Bottlebrush Creek. So my book came out with Alan and Unwin. It's the rural romance, and it came out on the 2nd of June. So just last week when we were filming, and so when this goes for the Romance Rendezvous for Australian romance readers, it'd probably be out a month or so by then. But I've got Angie McIntyre, who's from a farming family, and she's a beautician, but she loves to bake. She has a passion for baking. And one of the cruel things that I do to poor Angie during my book is that I deprive her of an oven because she is in the middle of a house renovation and she's got no oven, and she's got a mother-in-law who lives right next door, and she is ferrying across baked goods on a regular occurrence, which is great if you're not on a fitness campaign like poor Angie is. So I do mention baking a lot in my books, and I love to talk about it. I feel like it's one of those things that food is the language of love, isn't it? So I feel like everyone can relate to a cooking storyline. Yeah. And Leonie, how are your scones going? Have they come out of the oven yet?
They have. Look, I'm proving I did actually do them. They're there.
Yum!
Mine are a little different in that I always put sultanas in them, which is an ongoing argument with my teen. She tells me every time not to put sultanas in, however she eats them anyway. And also I like them with cheese, not with cream and jam. We can pretend it's for health reasons. It's totally not. It's just personal preference. And again, that's another argument with the teen. She's a cream and jam person, but there's rarely any cream in the house. So tough luck, I say, that makes these all mine.
Yum.
And so do you have them with cream, with cheese on your sultana scones?
Yeah, absolutely. Just a thin slice of cheese on top. It's the perfect sort of sweet and savoury mix if you do it that way. And that reminds me, Carla, you said yours were a bit anemic looking. If you brush them with a little bit of egg and milk before you put them in, they'll go quite dark. But they do go crispy if you do that. So it's kind of a taste thing.
I do like the soft top. So
but
they just don't look as good.
I'm just going to come in and say I've just taken them out of the oven because they're starting to smell ready. But if I crack in half, I can see that there's not quite ready inside. So I'm just going to pop them back in for a little bit.
How do hers look so perfect?
Isn't it?
Did you use a metal cutter, Carla?
I used a metal cup. So I think, it was probably...
It's got to have a really sharp edge. It's got to be very sharp edged.
Okay. And putting them close together? I'm getting a good lesson here, everyone.
So some people like putting them close together. I never did. I always had them so that they could expand, you know, and do their own thing. But, you know, some people swear by it, and I've seen some beautiful scones online where they're all joined together, and they look really pretty as well.
So mine are all together like that. We've, like, all the kids have had on the edge, but I put mine so that they're touching.
Yeah, I did the same.
Are yours pumpkin or?
Yeah. Pumpkin, and so I brush them with milk on top, and then we've got sesame seeds sprinkled all over the top as well.
Yum! They sound divine.
I don't do sultanas, but you can. I sometimes chop up dates and put so they're pumpkin and date scones if you're wanting a sweeter one.
And they match your jumper and your sign as well.
My sign's there because there's a lot of light coming through otherwise.
And so while we're waiting the extra couple of minutes for my scones to cook, can you ladies please tell us your favourite thing to bake and why? I'll start off by saying probably my favourite thing to bake is biscuits. I love a good crunchy biscuit. I love a chewy biscuit. I love the fact that I always cook a double batch, and I put half in the freezer in a Tupperware container and then pull them out a week later, and voila, we have fresh school lunches. So probably biscuits are my favourite thing to cook. What about you, Kaneana?
Oh, well, I bake a lot at the moment because my youngest is 4 and she loves to eat, and she's got so she constantly just says, can we make something? Can we make something? She doesn't really care about what's going to come out, but she just wants to eat the bowl. But my probably all-time favourite is a carrot cake. I love carrot cake, so that's probably an all-time favourite. But one of the favourite things in the kitchen over winter is having the slow cooker on and knowing all day that you've done dinner.
That is such a good feeling. How about you, Leonie?
I don't really have a favourite. I don't know if you saw, but the cat just tried to climb on my shoulder then. So hygienic kitchen, not a kitchen.
Missed it.
I don't really have a favourite. I bake a lot, and I love baking, and I like to think I'm good at it, but I did have a massive failure just the other day. I use plain flour all the time, and I just add baking powder to it. But every so often, old lady brain gets me, and I completely forget that I'm using plain flour. So the other day, I made banana bread, and it didn't work out. And I'm saying to everybody, oh, I don't know what's wrong with that. Must have been the bananas were off. Yeah, okay, that's the thing. I'm like, this. How sad is that? A day later, and after I'd eaten 2 slices trying to work out what was wrong, I went, oh, plain flour. I didn't put any baking powder in, and that, ladies, is what happens if you don't use baking powder.
Oh, that's fantastic. What about you, Cathryn? What's your favourite?
I really like making tarts. Like I really enjoy making pastry, short crust and pâte sablé, and you know, all the different pastries. So I'm a pretty gun tart maker, I have to say. I've got probably my favourite. I make a chocolate and chili tart, which is just beautiful.
Wow.
And then it's from an Italian lady who used to run a restaurant in a place where I lived once. And it's a lemon mascarpone tart, beautiful as well. And yeah, I make a pretty mean tart to ton as well. So.
Oh, can you send us your address and we'll be over, you know, a couple of hours?
Yum.
I usually post photos to Instagram of the ones that look good, but I don't post
I've seen them. I've drooled.
What about you, Carla?
I like a slice, so anything that's got a thin layer of chocolate on top, and you know, biscuity base, so like a caramel slice, cherry ripe slice, mint slice. Yeah, I'm a slice girl. But I'm interested in Cathryn's chopped chili tart, because the book I'm writing at the moment is set around a chili festival, so I really love the
I'll send you the recipe if you like.
Yeah, that would be great. So yeah, thank you. I'll steal that one.
Yeah, no, it's a beauty.
Sounds great.
I loved the look of that French tart that you made, Cathryn. That looked divine.
A French custard tart. I hadn't made it before, and normally they just call it flan in France, but and it's not necessarily with a pastry, but this one was with a pastry, and it was really good.
It looked it.
I've been in a baking obsession since lockdown. So
ISO baking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. So, ladies, can you also tell me a little bit about books that you like that have got baking in them? So, Kaneana, you can kick us off.
Well, I definitely have to give Maya's a shout out, don't I? and Wildflower as well. But I was lucky enough to read an early version of this copy, and I'm excited to dig back in and see what happened in the final pages. And if you are watching, I have a competition to win Maya's new book and my book on my both Facebook and Instagram, which closes at 6 o'clock tonight. So another books that I do like with lots of baking in them is Josephine Moon's books. I feel like she's always got lots of great flavours. I first discovered her, The Tea Chest, and loved how she was able to kind of highlight the history of things and weave that into the storyline as well. And another Harlequin author that I read was with Cassie's The End of Cuthbert Close. She's got a bit of a cooking storyline in there too, with the backyard cooking cafe, or cooking, what's the word? Like catering going on. Yeah, so that's another book to have in terms of cooking. But it's great to have so many books at the moment that do have great flavours coming in. What about you, Leonie?
Well, the first book that I read that sort of delved into the foodie world was actually Enid Blyton. I don't know if you're all familiar. Oh, it sounds like a few people are. But yeah. Silky the Fairy made pop biscuits that were filled with honey. And I have spent so many years trying to make pop biscuits filled with honey. Apparently you need to be a fairy. Doesn't work. Doesn't mean I'm going to stop trying though. Also, I love Sandy Docker's first book. She actually has recipes in the back of this book. There's lemon and rosemary cupcakes, which I swear I'm going to try. I've grown the rosemary. I'm out of excuses. I really need to get onto it.
We just did that book for our book club, and one of my members, they made the chocolate fudge cupcakes out of the back of her recipe books, and yeah, they were delicious.
I actually went to Sandy's launch for that book, and she made them and had them there, so that was very nice. So I will give a try of a few of those recipes, but it's one of those, I'm being good, I'm not going to bake anything. It's a total lie. I'm going to. It's
That's right. What about you, Cathryn?
I want to do a shout out for a book called La Cucina by an author called Lily Pryor, which I actually read quite some time ago, but it's about a Sicilian home cook who just becomes a real expert in her in Sicilian cooking, and she gets befriended by an Englishman, and they have this passionate affair. So basically it's like a sensual reawakening and an emotional reawakening with food and sex in the kitchen and things like that. It was just brilliant. Like, it was a really, really wonderful book to read. And then I think there's another one called The Mistress of Spices. I don't know, I can't think of the author right at the moment. But that was about an Indian lady who sells spices and advice and love and so forth. And the other one that I can think of is a book by Kaz Delaney, also known as Kerry Lane, who's a romance author, mainly for young adult. And this is her cozy mystery, which is has a baking heroine, and she has recipes in the back as well. So, and Kaz herself is a pretty good cook, so they're all good.
I've been wanting to read Kaz's cozy mysteries, so they're good.
Yeah, it's lovely. It's really heartwarming, as you'd expect from her. So yeah.
And funny, I'm sure. Time to share mine. So I've got a printout of a book, because it was a book club one, so we got it from the library. The Colour of Tea by Hannah. I'm not sure if you can see it very well. Hannah Tunnicliffe. Yeah, her books often have a foodie theme, but it was set, I'm just reading off the the blurb in Macau, is that how you say it, in China? Or Hong Kong, yeah, where she opens a cafe and serves tea, coffee, and macarons. And then I sort of went on to read some of her other books, like the Seasons of Salt and Honey, which is sort of, it's got Italian recipes, and then A French Wedding, which has a heroine that used to own a Parisian restaurant, and then now she goes on to have a boulangerie. Is that how you say it? So. Yeah, I don't know, just something about how she's a New Zealand author, Hannah Tunnicliffe. Just something about the way she writes the descriptions and the visuals. It's really sort of pulls you in, and the characters. So yeah, she's my favourite sort of foodie author.
Oh, fantastic. There's so many good recommendations here. I'm going to be doing a bit more reading, I think, and then obviously a bit more eating as I test the different recipes in the books. So I forgot to say that the scones are ready. And so they take about 12 minutes to cook. And for this recipe, they just crack really beautifully. They have this natural seam around them. And so you just have to split them open, and they're just beautiful and warm. And so I like to have mine with, today I've got rhubarb jam because we had heaps of rhubarb in the garden. So we made some beautiful rhubarb jam and cream as well. Now, as for books that I like with baking, firstly, I'm going to say The Country Girl by Cathryn Hein, very good author. I've heard she's great. No, I loved, there was a great character in there. I think her name was Gemma. Is that right, Cathryn?
Sorry, the heroine was Tash.
And she's a food blogger, and she was just gorgeous. She was so warm, bubbly, and she was doing all these recipes to camera, probably just like, we're doing today. So that one really grabbed me as a good country rural romance with cooking in it. I also really like the Kerry Greenwood books. So if anyone's watched the Phryne Fisher series, their murder mysteries on TV, she also has a second set of books, and, Earthly Delights. One's called Cooking the Books. They're really good for a cozy mystery. And then the other one that I cannot leave without plugging is this fantastic book by another great author called Leonie Kelsall. And I was lucky enough to read an early copy of this, and I just loved the baking in that. So we've got sourdough bread, we've got all sorts of great stuff going on in this book. So you won't be able to resist doing a bit of baking. There's lamingtons too. Oh, I don't know if you ladies have tried to make lamingtons before, but for me, I think they're the most fiddly darn things. I don't choose to make them, but I love reading about people who make them. Now we're running a bit short on time, so perhaps before we go to the questions, and if Kaneana will yell out some instructions in a minute, but I'd firstly just quickly like to hear from each of my fabulous authors. Where can we find you all online? Because and show us the cover of your new book again, everyone, please. That's mine. So I've got a website, it's mayalinnell.com, and I have a blog, Instagram, newsletter, so that's great. Kaneana, where can we find you?
This is my cover. You can find me at kaneanamay.com as well, and I'm on Instagram and Facebook as Kaneana May Writer. Probably go to Mayers and try and find me through there because my name's really hard to spell and say.
I like that your name's hard to say because mine's impossible because it's actually pronounced Leonie and nobody gets it, including me. So find me under leoniekelsall.com. There's my book, and there's links to all of my Facebook, Instagram, everything on my website.
You'll find me at cathrynhein.com. I also post regularly to Instagram and to Facebook, and if you sign up to my newsletter, you get access to a bunch of free stories. So if you like free books, join the newsletter, which the link is on my website, cathrynhein.com.
Yep. And I'm also online, carlacaruso.com.au, and you can also find me on Instagram and Facebook. I think Carla Caruso Author or Carla Caruso Creative. So lots of C's. There you go.
Fantastic. Now, Kaneana, did you want to call for questions?
Yes, the people that do know that they have submitted a question, if you all want to jump in with your video, and then I'll get Malvina to also bring up her. I think, can I just do this? And here's Malvina's. I'm trying to unmute you. Yep. Malvina, can we see you?
Hello.
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 Thanks.
Hi, Malvina.
Hi.
Now, have you got a question for us today?
Well, I had a few, but you've mostly answered all my questions. Thank you. But there's one controversial one. Well, there's two controversial questions. Lemonade or traditional scones? A second controversial question, and I want both answered, please, is jam or cream first? Because when I went to United Kingdom and put the jam on first, I was informed very smartly that no, you don't do that. You put the cream on first, and it's clotted cream, so it spreads on like margarine or butter, and then you dollop the jam on top. So lemonade or traditional scones, jam or cream on first? There you are, girls.
For me, I definitely do it traditional. I haven't tried the lemonade scones. I have friends that swear by them, and I have nothing against the lemonade scones, but for me, and then I like to put my jam on first. And if I'm smart, I only put the cream on the one that I'm about to eat, and then as soon as I'm about to eat the second one, and then I put the cream on the other half, because otherwise it falls off really easy. It gets heated up. So I like to apply my cream directly before eating. How about you, Kaneana?
Well, yeah, we make pumpkin scones more than anything else. So I have made the lemonade scones, but they don't compare to the pumpkin scones. And I always put jam on first, jam and then cream on top. I don't know whether. What about you, Leonie?
I'm definitely a traditional scone maker, except for adding the sultanas, which are traditional where I come from. It's a Shiraz scone. I've tried the lemonade ones, not a lover. They're a bit too light and fluffy for me. The cream and jam question, even though I have cheese on mine, that's the difference between a Cornish tea and a Devonshire tea. Cornish is the cream first, clotted cream, and then the jam, and the Devonshire tea is the other way around, or, you know, just be different and have the cheese. Cathryn?
Okay, Malvina, the food snob in me refuses to acknowledge lemonade scones. I'm sorry, I can't do it. No. Just no, it's wrong. But
I was trying to be polite and say that.
I do appreciate that it's a time saver for busy people, so that's okay. But real scones don't take very long to make anyway. So, and the thing with the cream and the jam, I always put the jam first and then the cream on top. Mate, well, because we don't really have clotted cream, so
No.
so if you put, you know, your chantilly cream on the bottom and then the jam on top, it'll all get flattened. You'd lose your nice airy cream. So no, jam on the bottom for me.
What's so wrong with the lemonade? It's just too quick and too.
It's nothing wrong with it. It's just that really, do you really want to be putting sugary, nasty?
Oh, okay. Yep.
Wholesome. You want nice, wholesome ingredients.
Yeah. Fair enough. The lemonade scones for my baby shower, a friend made those. I thought it was a genius idea. But and I like the light and fluffy texture, I guess. Yeah, but yeah, I'm obviously not as much of a baker as you, so I would go with Cathryn's. Cathryn here.
I'm just a food snob. So.
Yes, clearly. And I'd go jam first as well. Maybe that's an Aussie thing.
Thank you, girls. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, if everyone else wanted to, that is asking a question, if you can put your videos on as well. And I don't think Helen's here by the looks of things. So Craig from Happy Valley Books, what was your question for us today?
They're on mute. Looks like everyone's on mute, maybe.
It does, doesn't it?
Oh, they have to. Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Hello, can you hear?
Yes, we
Hello.
can.
I can hear you. I can't see you.
A slight technical issue. We are disabled. Our video's been disabled.
Oh,
I am
You
here.
can see something.
There we go.
oh, Helen's here too.
Yep, I've been here.
Sorry, I couldn't see you there. Helen, did you want to jump in with your question?
How long did it take you all to get published in the first place?
For me, I was really lucky. So I started writing Wildflower Ridge in, I think, the end of 2016. And then I had a publishing contract in 2018. So that was, yeah, I mean, it took me almost 2 years to write the book and then to get a publishing contract pretty quickly. I was very fortunate that Alan and Unwin were looking for a new rural romance author about the same time that I was looking for a publisher. So it just worked out really well for me.
And it's fabulous. Love them both.
Thank you, Helen.
Well, it took I didn't have that dream story. It took a lot longer for me. I've got 2 books that I wrote before the one that are still on my computer. So I'd say I wrote in television first, which was a great experience, but I was working on a novel, I'd say, for about 10 years before I got my deal.
The long haul. But
Yeah.
we're appreciated. Us readers love all those books that are coming out.
Thanks, Helen.
I went a little bit of a different route because I was targeting the American market. So I managed to get a New York agent over there, and I've got a dozen books under my pen name with different publishers there, but rural romance is my love, and I wrote this, and I was really lucky that I pitched it to Alan and Unwin, and within a couple of days got the call about it. So that was very exciting.
Very much looking forward to it. It's sitting here waiting for me.
I'm so glad, Helen.
I took about 5 years. I think I'd written about 6 or 7 books. I was published under a pen name. I had 2 books under a pen name originally, which I won't talk about. It was a different career.
I think I might have them somewhere, Cathryn.
And yeah, so I'd written quite a few books, and it's been really interesting. It's like there's been nothing lost from those books. So anything good in those previously written manuscripts, which are unpublished, I've taken the best bits out of, whether it's a character or a scene or whatever, and recycled it in other stories. So there's been, all those hundreds of thousands of words that I wrote, they're not lost as far as I'm concerned. They're just still there to be mined.
Yeah, for me it was quite quick as well. It was only a few years to get published, even though I'd had the dream for it. Once I got serious, it didn't take long, but I'd had the dream since I was like a primary school kid, so it did take long. But in some ways I'm quite embarrassed by some of my first books and some of the books that I wrote when I was in the throes of having baby twins, and I think I probably didn't spend as much time as I could have editing. So I actually think I only feel like I'm hitting my stride now, in a sense. Like so I don't think there is a rush to be published. I remember Rachel Johns or someone saying it took her 10 years, and I think it is 10 years that of sort of honing your craft that you feel. I don't know, you really hit your stride. So I'm impatient, so I think I needed that reward early of being published, but I cringe over some of my early books. So
Well done.
yeah. So even if it takes you longer, keep pushing on. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Helen. Next, we've got Craig and Phil from Happy Valley Books. What's your question for everyone today?
Hi guys, sorry about the
Hi,
earlier technicality. Just firstly, love to congratulate Maya on her latest release. We've both read it and loved it. Yeah. And also I've read Leonie and absolutely love that too. And also we've read you, Kaneana, and Cathryn. Carla, we're looking forward to reading you. We've actually done a bit of a Google on your book. So today's session's been brilliant. We've introduced a new author.
Yeah.
But our question today is, what are you all working on? What's your new current books coming up?
Great question. Thank you very much, Phil and Craig, for tuning in. Phil and Craig, for people who don't know, are book bloggers, and they do a wonderful job reviewing books, as does Helen. So we're very lucky to have such great support in our community from readers. So at the moment, I'm working on book number 3, which comes out next year, next winter. And it's funny because, you know, you spend so long writing a book and then people read it in a day and say, when's the next book? It's like, oh, it took me 2 years to write that one.
Sounds like us.
Yeah, which is a great problem to have. It's really nice to hear that they're being read and enjoyed and the pages are turning easily. So my book doesn't have a name yet. I might need to put out a bit of a call for people for suggestions, but it focuses on Lara, who is one of the McIntyre sisters, who's also pops up in Bottlebrush Creek and Wildflower Ridge. How about you, Kaneana?
Well, I've just submitted my second lot of edits back to my publishers, and I will be revealing the title of the book later this week on my socials. And it's about 3 women and a wellness centre, and one of them is actually a nutritionist. So there is a lot of cooking classes and a bit more baking in it than I had in the one. So whilst that's gone off, book 3 has started again too. So I'm just in a very rough draft of book 3 about, oh, who knows what it's about at this stage. I'll pass on to you.
I just finished a book last week, having had to rewrite a little bit, didn't I, Maya? Because I found out some parallels with our storylines. I went, oh no, this can't happen. So I pitched that to my publisher last week. So everybody cross your fingers for me, because you're in this business. And I took one day off. That one's temporarily called The Wattle Seed Inn, and it's set in the same town as the farm at Pepper Tree Crossing, so it has a lot of crossover with the characters there. And I took a day off and started writing the next book, so we'll see how that goes.
Excuse me, sorry. I've just finished proofreading my next Outback Bride book, which is it's called Serenity's Song, and it's the sequel to Elsa's Stand, which is the first of my Outback Brides novels, which is in a continuity with a group of other authors. So since that's been gone off, I've been writing some short stories in between plotting out my next big romance. So I'm sort of doing multiple things at the moment, but yeah, I quite enjoy writing short stories as a way to muck around with ideas and experiment and so forth, and then I can give them to my newsletter subscribers as presents. But yes, we're starting the next big one soon.
Yeah, we're suckers for punishment, aren't we?
Yeah.
Keep going. Yeah, I mentioned before I'm writing one that it's surrounding sort of a chili festival. So a girl moves into a small coastal town and it kind of spices things up a bit. And it's been a really long project for me because I've spent over a year, which is very unlike me. So, but it feels like I've only got a few more scenes to write, and I'm hoping that, I don't know, it feels like I won't have to edit as much because I've spent so long and I've rewritten scenes, which is very unlike me. So hopefully the edit is a lot quicker. Yep.
Oh, thanks so much, Craig and Phil. We are going to jump to another question. I can't see that a couple of the people aren't on here, but what about Charlotte? Charlotte, you've got a question?
There are 2 Charlottes, but I do have a question.
Yeah.
It's just a very, very quick one. Do you like writing in the morning or in the evening?
Thank you, Charlotte. I love writing in the morning. I'm a morning person. So when I was trying to finish the first draft of book 3, I'd get up at 5 o'clock to go do half an hour exercise and then lock myself out because we were homeschooling and I couldn't write during the day like I normally do. Normally I write from 9 o'clock till 3 o'clock, but because the kids have been home for homeschooling, I've had to change that a bit. So definitely mornings for me. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm a morning as well, but I get up and do exercise as well before I start. So I'm more like about 9 o'clock once I've gotten kids to school and preschool, but I've still got one at home a few days a week. So night times if I have to, but my brain is a bit fried by then, if I'm honest.
I feel like I should pretend that I get up and exercise, but you know, it's a lie. I get up, I turn the computer on, I say I'm writing. Really, it's social media for the next amount of time until the dog starts howling, and then I take him for a walk. And yeah, that's exercise, that counts. And then the computer's basically on all day, and I write in scenes. I'll think of an actual line, and then the story has to fit that line. So I'll go and scribble that down. But the real stuff doesn't happen till after midnight. Then it sort of kicks in, and I start writing properly.
Wow.
Okay, that's a bit late for me. No, I'm a morning writer as well, Charlotte. Usually between sort of 8:30 to 11. I used to start a lot earlier, but now I go for walks in the morning. And then I can tend to sometimes have another creative quick kick between 3 and 5. So it might take a while. You know, I've written my morning words, and then I'll go off and do other things, and those words are sort of percolating through my brain again, and sometimes I'll get extra ideas. So occasionally I'll have another flurry again in the late afternoon.
I'm another morning writer, and I like to go for a jog or a walk first. So I wish I was quicker at writing, because I sort of waste time, do some exercise, having a shower, sitting down. I think my brain actually kicks in more like afternoon though. I feel like that's when I really get in my flow. But yeah, I'm always interested in hearing about other people's writing processes, because I think 4 hours and I'm burnt out. Is that normal? I hear about some people who can sit there from 8 to 5, but I couldn't do that. And I used to be able to write at night, but now I have kids. So. Yeah. So do people sit very long at the computer, or to throw in?
That's sheer laziness. That's just like sitting at the computer pretending I'm doing.
Oh, okay, that's okay.
I sit for long periods of time when all 3 of my kids are out of the house.
Yeah.
But that's only out of desperation, that I kind of have to get as much done whilst they're not here. But yeah, I don't know what would happen, or what will happen when the youngest goes off to school next year and there's a bit more freedom in the time. But I wrote in, but I'm sure everyone else did too, and maybe snatched when they were sleeping, you would just snatch that bit of time there. But yeah, it does. I get restless after a while for sure.
I try to hit word count. So if I'm on deadline, then it's whatever it takes. And if that means starting at 6 in the morning and finishing at 9 at night, that's what it takes, because you're on deadline. So for when I'm not on deadline though, and everything's going well, then it's really dependent on if I hit my word count, which has dropped a little bit. It used to be 2,000 words, but now it's now I try and get 1,200.
Okay. Well, that makes me feel better.
Yeah.
Did you hear about people doing 10,000 words?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I've had days where I've had really big word counts, where you've done sort of 4,000 or 5,000 words, and then the next time I'm fried. So I can't sustain that, it seems. Yeah. But you have to be disciplined. If you're on contract and you've got to get the words down. That's all there is to it. You don't get a book unless you get the words down. So you have to force yourself to keep doing it. So.
Yeah. Very true. Yeah. Do you have weekends? Do you have weekends? Do you take the weekends off?
I kind of do and don't. I don't write on weekends as a general rule, unless it's deadline. But I do a lot of businessy type stuff on the weekends. I write blog posts and all that kind of thing, and do professional development type stuff in the mornings, not in the afternoons. I go out for lunch.
Yeah, get out in the world.
Go out in the world, yeah.
Now, I've got that there's 2 more questions, but I can't quite see. There's someone that's under Galaxy S8. So is that Alison or Kirsty? Are either of you on here and wanting to ask a question? If you are, just jump on with your video. Otherwise, Maya, I think it's back to you.
Okay, well, unless someone else pops up with a question, I've really enjoyed this chat today, guys. It's so lovely having my friends as my guests, and to have some fabulous readers join in. And I hope that you guys can all go out and have a crack at making scones. We have also, everyone's got a scone recipe. So some people will have it on their website, some people will have it on their Instagram. Some people will have it in their blog post or their newsletter. So if you're keen for a recipe, we might even do like a post later that in the stories, in our Instagram stories, that has where each person's scone recipe is. So mine's on my website. And we also need to hold up a piece of paper, everyone, there's a code that people who are watching all of the ARRA events need this code. So here's my code. If anyone needs to write that down. And so just a huge thanks to the Australian Romance Readers Association for being so generous by allowing us to come on board and talk about things that we love, because we do all love books and baking. And that's the reason that I've chosen these lovely guests, because I see their beautiful cooking on Instagram and on Facebook, and I know through reading their books that they're fans. So did the other people pop up with questions? I didn't see anyone.
No one's popped their video back on. Here's my number. Yes, in terms, I guess I need to keep talking whilst I'm on screen. In the one, there isn't a great baking scene at all, but there is a cooking challenge, because it's loosely based on a show like The Bachelor. So there is a cooking challenge, but my contestant is not a very good baker, and she has a bit of a flop in the kitchen and doesn't, you know, she's trying to win a date, but I'm sure you can guess whether that happens or not. How about you, Leonie? Have you got your sheet to pop up as well?
Yes, yep, there's my sheet again. I'll also keep talking. In my new release at Pepper Tree Crossing, Ronnie is not a baker at all. In fact, she has problems just using a microwave. But one of the challenges she faces is that she actually has to learn to bake as part of her inheritance. So that's an interesting journey for her. Cathryn?
Oh, okay. So that's, oh, hang on. That's
Yep,
one.
that's good.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. In Scarlet and the Model Man, there's no baking. There is, however, some nice cooking from the hero for the heroine.
Oh,
Yeah, he looks after her, but he can paint.
Very nice. Nice.
We didn't quite see all Cathryn's number.
Oh, sorry, hang on.
Do it again.
I am totally uncoordinated.
I'm right with you there, Cathryn. What are these numbers for, sorry?
There's a treasure hunt where you can win prizes, isn't there?
for people who are watching all of the Australian Romance Readers Association Rendezvous, the lockdown thing. So I think that's coming out June/July. So they'll play all of these videos. They're recording them now, but they'll play all of these videos consecutively over a weekend, I believe. So if people want to sit down and chill out, collect all the numbers.
You.
Did everyone catch Carla's number then? Carla, you might have to talk.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, in the right place, I do have one scene where the nonna actually. So I have a few historical flashbacks, and she goes back to Italy, and she's meant to be making mostaccioli biscuits with her sister, and she mistakenly gets out the ingredients for scones that her Aussie neighbour taught her. So yeah, it was quite funny. I think that's enough to be that I didn't even, until I sort of was doing this, I didn't even realise there was a link that the Italian nonna makes scones in the book. So how bizarre.
That's fantastic. Okay, well, thank you very much, everyone, and have a wonderful Queen's Birthday long weekend for the people who are watching live, and for people who are watching later, enjoy the rest of your weekend. And thank you very much, everyone, for joining in.
I better just add that if it is for people watching later, the competition does close on the June long weekend. Sorry about that.
And thanks for organising, Maya. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No
You did so well with
worries.
your cooking.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. See you guys. Bye.
Bye.